So while I'm down here at the back of the car, I'm going to change the oil in the differential. I've already drained it out, took the plug out and left it 24 hours to drain out. So I've now put the plug back in, used well seal on the threads, put some well seal on, left it for 10 or 15 minutes to sort of for the solvent to evaporate and stiffen up a bit, and I put that in the bottom. I haven't put the level plug in yet, obviously, but the plan is to replace the gear oil with this GL4. GL5 is the more modern hypoid gear oil, and apparently that can damage brass components, so-called yellow metal, bronze and brass and so on. I don't think there's any brass in the different on this car. I could be wrong. There could be a shim, for example, that could be brass or even bronze. But as far as I know, it's all steel. So I could probably put GL5 back in, which I think is what's been in for the last year or two. But I'm going to use GL4. The number of miles this car does, it's not going to wear out very quickly. It's not as if it's doing hundreds of thousands of motorway miles. Apparently the GL5 oils, they contain some sulfur compounds that can actually chemically etch brass, or copper in particular, but any copper-based alloy can be damaged by it and actually eroded away, especially if it gets hot. So that's obviously not a good idea. But it seems to be particularly in gearboxes that it's an issue, where the synchro mesh rings, for instance, the synchro rings, I mean, they've often got copper alloys in, and two things: one, they can erode away, but also the additives in GL5 are so slippery that it can affect the gear change, and the synchro rings can't grip onto the cones properly. So that becomes an issue as well. But obviously that doesn't apply to the back axle. So I'm going to pump it in rather than mess about trying to squeeze the bottle, which is a nightmare. I've got an electric pump, which I've used for various things in the past, but I've cleaned it all out, and we'll use that to pump the oil back in with using this old motorcycle battery, lithium battery that I took off the BMW. The only other thing is I looked up the capacity, and apparently it's just over 0.8 litres, so pretty much sort of all of this bottle basically. So if I pump most of this in, it should start to overflow and set the level just by the level plug. Right, so the pump is poking into the level plug of the diff. I'm pretty sure this should self-prime, so let's give it a go. A bit slow, but it is coming up. You can see it drawing air in here, which is not ideal. I'm going to stop it, so I can see it drawing air in here. I can see it bubbling underneath the tubing. So I think I'll put a piece of wire around there, see if I can stop that leak, because this is obviously aerated. Not that it really matters, it'll settle out eventually, but yeah, it'd be nice not to be sucking air in. Yeah, this is soft stainless wire. So let's try wrapping about this round here. Let's see if that's any better. There's no sign that this is leaking air, sucking air in here anymore, but it obviously is sucking air in somewhere. I can only imagine it must be one of these joints. Just with a viscous gear oil, the vacuum must be relatively high. Well, that has emptied the 1 litre bottle, and it's still not overflowing, so obviously the capacity is more than the 0.85, I think it was, litres that I found in the manual. So luckily I've got another bottle, so I'll carry on. Right, that is finally overflowing. So I'll leave it to find its level. So yeah, so I've used that 1 litre, and this one is down to 750 mil, so it's a litre and a quarter basically. So the axle obviously takes more oil than I found in the workshop manual. Okay, I've left that to stand for half a day to let the air out of the oil that's entrapped air as I was pumping it in. And interestingly, the pump is now pumping clear oil. So I'm not quite sure why that is, but it looks as if the leak in the pump might have sealed itself up while it's been standing. No, that's back on again. I'm just going to replenish the oil as the levels drop slightly as the air's been released. So once that starts to overflow again, I'll stop and put the plug back in. Right, that's starting to overflow again. So stop the pump. I reckon that'll do. I'll let it find its level again and whack the plug back in. Looking at this can again, it's probably a litre and a half. Say far more than I expected. So virtually twice as much, in fact. Anyway, that seems to be the case. Litre and a half of hypoid gear oil in the back axle. So I was going to put a bit of well seal on here. Let's get it on all the threads. I used silicone sealant last time I changed the oil, but I'll just have to use well seal this time. It doesn't set and is quite easy to remove with a bit of methylated spirits. This way it won't get into the inside of the differential. Okay, I'll leave that for the solvent to evaporate for perhaps half an hour or so, and then put it into the axle. Good. So the level plug is back in, and everything is fine, I think. So I've fixed the front upright over here. Or at least I've painted it, so that should last a while. And replaced the oil in the back axle. So a litre and a half. That's what surprised me. Not the 0.85 litres that was in the service manual. But there were, so I think there were two axles. I think the early ones, the A-spec cars, had a plug on the top for some reason, probably because they reused the axle from some other car. But it had a plug on the top that failed the car. On full bump, it would hit the body. So there was a recall and a service notice, service bulletin. Explaining how to rectify that and stop it from hitting the bodywork. But my axle doesn't have that, so it must be, well, it's B-spec car, so that would have been after that service bulletin was issued and after they'd fixed the problem. Anyway, all good for now. Thanks for watching.